Well, how do you like that? I messed everything up. I didn't mean to. Hello, everyone. Oh, trying to fix things in Rumble land because I don't have connection to Rumble to the main interface, so I can't see my own playing. So I ended up mistaking myself and screwing up, and yeah. So here in a couple of minutes, something will probably change automatically. Oh, this will be fun. Anyway. Oh, let's see if it's, yeah, okay. So everything seems to be going through Rumble. Just fine. I just can't see anything that the chatting or any of the stuff in terms of the chatting or anything like that very easily. So, anyway, excuse me for a second while I get this all taken care of, and my audio recording hasn't hit yet either. So as soon as the time ticks down, like I said, you'll probably see the thing change. And if it does, then obviously things will be as they are. So anyway, then we'll get the show started. Yeah, Tommy mentioned over on Facebook, she's like a denial of service attack on Rumble. Yeah.
A rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic. Providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
See? Told you. Oh my goodness. So apparently there's something going on with Rumble. Yeah, I can't reach it. I know that much. So hopefully the rest of you, I know that some of you are there. I do know that. And I know that I'm transmitting because Rumble Studio is basically showing me that it's transmitting. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. The interface itself is sort of messed up. So hopefully you guys are doing okay over there. Like I said, I'm not going to be able to necessarily chat with you like I usually do until they get whatever going on figured out. This kind of stinks. But anyway, all right, let's go ahead and get things kicked off here. Tonight we have Judge Wild, the judge. Hopefully he's somewhere in the chat or whatever. But the judge is let me do my usual thing to see if everybody can see me in the chats, in the various chats. There's 2. There's 3. Okay, so I got 3. I definitely have YouTube, X, and Facebook. So if you need to move to one of those other locations, there you go. So I have YouTube, X, and Facebook running. Apparently, Rumble is not running right now. So at least not for me, anyway. Maybe for you guys, but not for me. So, all right. Let's go ahead and get things kicked off. Judge Wild is on tap for the Pledge of Allegiance tonight. So please, if you are of mind, please stand, remove your hat. Yeah. So, are of mind, please stand, remove your hat, and place your hand over your heart and join along with Judge Wild in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh yeah, hurrah!
All right. Thank you, Judge Wild, for that. You know, he's got a radio voice. That's all I'm going to say. He's got one of those radio type voices. But anyway, I digress. Thank you for that rendition, Judge. If you would like to hear your rendition played here on the program, all you need to do is send that, record yourself. See, I'm all discombobulated. Record yourself performing the pledge in your style, and then send that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, send it off to me, send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online, and I will get you into the rotation, of course, as quickly as possible. It looks like, at least according to Rumble, there's like 7 people watching over on Rumble. So maybe it's running for some people and not for everybody. I don't know. Okay, so tonight's headline sponsor, you can take a look. I'm wearing a fantastic shirt from them. This is the We the People Liberty Bell shirt. Whoops, Liberty Bell shirt. And this is the men's cotton polo style. So if you want a shirt and look like me, although why anybody would want to look like me, I have no idea. But if you want to look similar to me, then what you would want to do is head on over to theflagshirt.com. That's theflagshirt, all one word, .com. And when you get there, you'll be presented with all kinds of wonderful patriotic styles. Now, theflagshirt.com is a veteran-owned, veteran-run company, which makes it fantastic. They also have some Made in America shirts, too, so you can go and check out all of that. You know, obviously, we're having a focus on Made in America. So you want to go and grab those shirts as well, and also the accessories. And it's, you know, they have styles for men, women, kids, and, of course, like I just mentioned, all kinds of accessories, too. So just peruse the entire site. Go and take it all, you know, go and look at all of the wonderful things that are available for them. And then, once you do that, if you order $75 or more of product on theflagshirt.com, they will provide you with free shipping. But I understand not everybody wants to buy $75 or more of product. Therefore, I am going to help you out. So what I am going to do for you, of course, is, as soon as I can find it, what I'm going to do for you is you take one extra step. All you have to do is head on over to flagshirt.americanperspective.online. That's flagshirt.americanperspective.online. Head on over there, and once you do that, you'll be presented with a coupon code that you can copy and paste into the promo box at checkout at theflagshirt.com. Once again, go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online, and you'll be presented with a coupon code. Take that coupon code, copy and paste it into the promo box at checkout at theflagshirt.com and get $5 off your order on American Perspective. So head on over to theflagshirt.com and get yourself patriotized. All right. Well, tonight, it's Friday. It's Friday. It's the end of the work week for many. It's not all, but many. Some, of course, carry over into the weekend because their jobs are required to do so. But one thing that I did notice in a lot of the articles that have been presented for this week at my various outlets where I gather them is there's a series of Democrats, not like we really are surprised about this, but there's a series of Democrats that are essentially, well, let's just say that when the truth comes out, they are sitting there like the three monkeys where it's hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. They cover up everything. Well, speak no evil is kind of hard to do because that's all they do is speak evil. But definitely they refuse to hear and refuse to see the evils that they spread around, that they talk about. They refuse to see it. And what's funny, or, well, not necessarily funny as in ha-ha, funny as in a bit of ironic, is that these folks are starting to realize, or, well, they're not starting to realize it because, again, they're refusing to accept the truth. But the regular general public is starting to realize that these people are just absolutely horrible. And they no longer want to listen to them anymore. They no longer want to talk about them anymore. This is part of the reason why the Democrat Party's popularity rating is in literally the toilet. I mean, being down like less than 20% or whatever it is. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, well, you know, I can recall when I was younger, sake bombs. Sake bombs were really, really fun. You know, you head off to a sake bar or whatever, and you have sake bombs, and you get really crap-faced drunk and, you know, stagger on home, and hopefully you didn't drive, but those kinds of, you go and have sake bombs. Well, this kind of sake bomb isn't enjoyable except for the fact that, well, yeah, she deserves it. Let's take a look. So apparently, Jen Psaki. Yes, Jen Psaki. Her show moved, by the way, and kind of covered the Rachel Maddow slot for a time, and then Rachel Maddow came back for Trump's first 100 days. Why they keep dragging in Russia Rachel, I have no idea. But anyway, the point being is that what ended up happening here is Psaki came in and started to make her, make her debut in, well, maybe not a debut, but definitely in a different time slot, trying to, you know, excite viewers about her show. Well, yeah, didn't go over very well. So the first episode that she had, you know, did okay. I mean, let's just say it did all right. And now she's hosting a show called The Briefing, which is the coveted 9 p.m. Eastern time slot, Tuesday through Fridays. Well, her first show debuted with 1.2 million viewers. Okay. And 139,000 during specifically in the adult, what am I saying? Advertiser coveted demographics of adults from 25 to 54. Now, for those of you that don't know, I mean, everything, whether it's TV, whether it's radio, all of us, including myself, we live off of sponsorships. And like I've told you before, and I'm going to say it again, you are the product that we sell to those sponsors, because what we do is we basically say, hey, I've got such a popular show. I have 50 people that watch on a regular basis. I'm using that as a general number. I'm sort of being facetious too, because most sponsors and advertisers won't even look at you if you're less than 1,000 viewers, as in my case. But the thing about it is it's based off of viewership and listenership and that kind of stuff. Everything is radio. It's because, again, you're the product that we're selling. What we're selling to these sponsorships and advertisers, what we're selling to them is, hey, I can get you in front of, I have a captive audience, and I can get you in front of these people every single day for, 30 seconds to a minute and a half and pitch your product to all of these people. And so the only way that this really becomes a viable option for the advertiser is if you have a lot of viewers, especially those who are in the 25 to 54 range, because of the fact who realistically is going to go and buy these products on a regular basis. Well, it's going to be the working class of America, the people that are coming in and working all the time and so on and so forth. Now, I'm not trying to put down any of the retirees or anybody over the age of 54. I'm just simply saying that 25 to 54 is the ideal range for these advertisers to target. Okay, now, there are some advertisers that target younger. There are some advertisers that target older. But that 25 to 54 range is very important because of the fact that that is, of course, also the largest, or generally speaking, the largest demographic of adults. So anyway, to get back to this article, that targeted space, of course, is very important. And so the more people in that targeted space that watch on a regular basis, and especially not the ones that are just like drive-byers who come in and they pop in for like 5 minutes or whatever, and then they drive out or disappear. You know, we're not looking at those. We're looking for the long-term people, the people that come from the time the show starts till the time the show ends, and they're fully captivated for whatever that time is, whether it's an hour. In the case of radio, it might be 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it is. So anyway, her second episode, so this is just one day later, her second episode plummeted to just over 100 or just over 1 million total viewers and only 65,000 viewers in the coveted 25 to 54 slot. So in other words, within 48 hours, she lost a bunch of viewers. Yeah, that doesn't bode well for what is supposed to be a prime time slot. And most people say, well, why is that prime time? Well, it's pretty simple, because prime time is when you still have the people on the East Coast who are awake, and you have the people on the West Coast who are just getting off of work. This is part of the reason why I sort of target, or have targeted for this show, the 5 o'clock hour on the West Coast, because people are starting to leave. They can pick up their mobile device, they can hit Rumble, and they can listen to me on the drive home. The average drive time is around 22, 25 minutes across the board, on average throughout the United States. And so this is part of the reason why you want to target this stuff. Okay, so anyway, the program, the Saki Bomb, literally, shed a staggering 53% of its demo viewers, meaning the ones that were in that coveted 25 to 54 range, from the first episode to the second episode. She lost half of her a little over half of her viewers. She also apparently lost 67% of viewers between the ages of 18 to 49. Now, remember what I was saying about those demographics. You know, they shift depending upon what's going on. But apparently, the viewers between 18 and 49, she lost 67% of those after only one episode. So on Tuesday, she had 113,000 in that demographic. And on Wednesday, only had 37,000 in that demographic. Folks, this is horrible. I mean, these are horrible numbers for what is supposed to be your prime time, and especially for a brand new show. I mean, if it's something that's been around for a while, yeah, you can kind of see, especially if the topic and subject matter gets a little stale. You know, you could see something like this happening to what would be considered a prime time show. But in reality, this is a horrible situation for a brand new time slot, especially for somebody like Psaki, who is a relatively well-known individual, maybe not always liked, obviously, but a well-known individual. Now, the thing about it is that, and this is really another sad sack of the story, is that MSNBC actually had much better results with Russia Rachel Maddow at the helm. According to stats, she averaged 1.9 million total viewers and 141,000 viewers in the coveted age bracket of 25 through 54. So, yeah. Her Wednesday episode, by the way, was beaten by 38 different cable news offerings, especially among that coveted demographic of 25 to 54. So it was outdrawn by everything on Fox News, along with 13 different CNN shows and 7 different MSNBC shows, like all of the shows that she is competing with on her own dang network. She was beaten. Yeah, sweetheart, I know you want to try and continue to be the pretty face, but yeah. Yep. So when comparing The Briefing, which is her show name, to other shows. And what's sad about this is these are repeats, meaning that they've been repeated over and over and over and over again. She lost out to various repeats of Friends, Seinfeld, Everybody Loves Raymond, Bob's Burgers, King of Queens, That 70s Show, and even Nickelodeon's Paw Patrol, Hallmark's Reba, and TLC's My Strange Addiction. Yeah. Let's just say she's having a really tough time over at MSNBC. Well, MSNBC actually is having a really tough time. And a lot of this, I mean, again, a lot of this, kind of keep in mind, is that this is because of the fact that these people are just, they lie to you. The American public now knows it. Well, actually the world, hopefully, now knows that these Democrats, these MSNBCs, these NBCs, CBS, ABC, CNN, any of the other mainstream media outlets that are left-leaning have all been lying over the course of the last 4 years plus about all kinds of certain things. For an example, covering up for Joe Biden's decline. So, yeah, she's struggling. I mean, I'm struggling, but I know that I'm struggling. I'm struggling because I can't, in terms of viewership, because literally I have no marketing whatsoever. I mean, that's where my biggest piece of the pie is falling, not to mention the fact that I don't know if my content is necessarily extremely popular with the masses. It is for all of my Whiskey Warrior P1s and for anybody else who's joined in, and by the way, just so you know, it has grown over the years, as Buddy Weiser was talking out of Rumbleland, just talking about this the other night, that, we first started off with hitting a goal of 100 viewers, and now, I'm at, or 100 subscribers, and now I've got something like 790 on this channel. So the growth on this channel has been great as far as I'm concerned. I'd love to see it grow more, but I know that my biggest failing, of course, has to deal with marketing. I'm not a marketer, and I can't really afford to hire a marketing program or marketing firm either. So there you go. I mean, that's just the way it is. My marketing program is basically word of mouth by all of you folks. I'm going to have to figure out how to make that change, but that is what it is. Anyway, she's got an entire network that is behind her, and she can't even get, the coveted demographic for advertisers. So MSNBC is dying a very slow death, I think. All right, well, as was announced by, I believe it was 3 Chevy on this program last night, okay, is life here in LifeZet. Trump taps Judge Jeanine Pirro to tackle justice in the D.C. swamp. So this is an interesting development, and I'm going to let the video do the talking here.
Just minutes ago, one of the co-hosts of The Five, Judge Jeanine Pirro, will be appointed interim United States Attorney for the District of Columbia. President Trump announced that on Truth Social just moments ago. Jeanine was Assistant District Attorney for Westchester County, New York, and then went on to serve as County Judge and District Attorney, where she was the first woman ever to be elected to those positions. She will be leaving Fox to take this position, and we obviously wish her well.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page.
Sorry about that. Anyway, so there it is. It's been announced. That's cool, because I like her. I like her quite a bit, and she's a hard-hitting, strong conservative voice in the for the legal sense, kind of thing. Anyway. So there you go. Becky over on Facebook says, well, that I hope you don't go stale whiskey. I'm like, I hope I don't either. You know, technically, I don't think alcohol can actually go stale as long as it stays bottled up. You know, I mean, there was, or there might be, I don't know if this is true or not, but there might be bottles from like the Revolutionary War of wine or whatever. That's alcohol, right? There's bottles that are of whiskey that are still bottled up somewhere, I think. So yeah, technically, I guess alcohol doesn't really go stale. So there you go. I'll never go stale. Sorry, that was a bad joke. But anyway, there we go. All right. Well, moving on. So after a disastrous performance, and by disastrous, I mean Jill Biden answering for Joe Biden on The View, it's now been announced that they are actually considering a $30 million tell-all book deal. Well, considering the fact that, you know, Hunter Biden's art is no longer selling, and they no longer have the connections or the, pay for influence deal going on with all the foreign entities that they used to, because, of course, they're never going to come back into power in the United States government. I think they should take it. But here's the kicker. And by the way, this article is in Breitbart. This is the kicker. They are looking at including details from Jill's diary. They fail to mention the one diary that they really should be including details about, and that would be Ashley's diary, where she talks about taking showers with her father and being afraid of going into the shower until he actually is asleep. But no, they're not going to put that in a quote-unquote tell-all book. Yeah. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. This is kind of what happens in the publishing world, at least as I understand it, is that when you have well-known people like this who are going to create some sort of a book, they usually get handed a incentive by a publisher. Now, whether or not the book actually sells, that's the gambling that the publisher is doing when they hand over that money. But $30 million, really, for Biden? I mean, just about everything has already been written in terms of his actions in for Burisma, and his actions with sniffing kids is pretty well known. I wonder if Tara Reid's going to end up in that. Is it Tara Reid? I can't remember if it's Tara Reid. I think it's Tara Reid. But anyway, yeah, none of that'll show up there. Becky over on Facebook says, "What are they going to call it? How crooked are we?" I don't know. I don't know, but that's a pretty good title. That's a pretty good title for it. So anyway, the article here talks about how the book deal could come about. So apparently the details on this is that the joint book deal is contingent upon Jill. So Jill has to be a part of the book. And some of these experts that are sitting there, talking about this, they say that her participation by itself could be worth $15 million on her own. So that, however, though, would come with a price, like everything else that, our money requires, which would be that she has to reveal details surrounding her husband's declining mental health, as well as his disastrous debate against Donald Trump, his decision to leave the 2024 race. And according to the report, all of that could potentially be the holdup in terms of signing this book deal. So another suggestion out of this is that Jill Biden might be the biggest defender of Joe, but a book of her own might do better to allow her to shape the family's narrative. I mean, she's already answering questions from, pointed at Joe and that kind of stuff. So I guess it really wouldn't make much difference if she wrote the book versus somebody else. But they also, the report of this book deal also says that the Bidens could snag it because of the fact that Jill makes the decision to go what is essentially, quote unquote, scorched earth on those high profile Democrats who turn their backs on Biden. Now that would be entertaining, is for her to come out with what would be considered her version of the truth. And for those on the audio portion of the program, I put the word truth in air quotes. Anyway. Yeah. So, and according to the report too, it sounds like money is going to be a huge factor in the family's decision. Because of Hunter Biden being about $15 million in debt from legal fees from the several federal cases, along with the art sales drying up, as I mentioned before, floundering memoir. Other sources told the outlet or told the reporting about it. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, hey, you got to get money somewhere when you've, sent yourself out and out to pasture on your own. Anyway. All right, let me do a real quick check and see if Rumble is back up, at least where I can see everybody again. I doubt that it's going to happen. I'm not even seeing anybody. I mean, I haven't seen the numbers change on my back-end studio connection either, and so I don't even know if Rumble's running or not, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, moving on. So anyone who is, halfway intelligent with some common sense, and for that, I mean, we automatically leave Democrat leftists in the dust on that one. But anybody who has a little bit of common sense knows that this push toward going to green energy and putting forth a Green New Deal, all of it is essentially a money laundering, money making boondoggle. And anyone who has watched California in particular over the course of the last, 15, 20 years, because they have transitioned and put all of their eggs into the green energy basket and consistently have problems with things like brownouts, blackouts, stuff like that, telling people that they can't run their ACs at night when it's, 85, 90 degrees at night, things like that, or telling them to, hey, all those electric cars that you bought to be, green, you can't charge those at night because we don't have enough power on the power grid to be able to charge all of that. And so, thanks, Tommy. And so anyone who also has been watching the news realizes that Spain announces, hey, by the way, we're now 100% green. And I think it was 2 days later, they ended up in a, 8-hour or 9-hour or 10-hour blackout. Okay. So I'm just going to point this out and be very clear in what I say. There is nothing wrong with exploring new avenues for energy. There is nothing wrong with taking those new avenues for energy and partnering them up with the reliable and efficient energy sources that we already have. Because let's face it, without development, we're definitely not going to get anything new in the technology space. We can't just sit on our laurels and wait for the next breakthrough to come. Okay, because if nobody's doing anything, if nobody's trying new stuff or depending, trying to develop new things, you're never going to get that next big thing that comes through. However, you have to take it with a dose of reality, which is essentially that the green energies, such as solar and wind, and in a limited capacity, hydroelectric, those three in particular provide a not so stable power grid. Texas found that out too, because Texas started moving toward all of these green energy things, and their one nuclear power plant had problems because of the weather making it so cold. Their liquid natural gas froze up in their pipelines, so that was another energy piece that came. But Texas by itself, that one incident in Texas, sort of highlights it, but also shows that, hey, not everything is necessarily 100% reliable. That being said, except for things like oil and coal and those kinds of fossil fuels, in order to fuel our energy systems, they're a lot more reliable than some of these other ones. For an example, with the wind farms, and I happen to be looking at the wind farm picture right here, because this is what in LifeSet, Trump's energy chief targets green news scam in budget showdown. But the thing about it is that these wind farms, if you get too much of a breeze or not enough, they have to turn these things off. And when they shut them down, they're no longer producing any energy. So this is, again, there's nothing necessarily wrong with these. I mean, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of drawbacks, but you've got to be real, and reality needs to set in, and the truth of all this needs to set in. For an example, these windmills, they use up to, I think it was, the number was something like 80,000 gallons of oil in order to lubricate over their lifespan. That the return on investment for just one of these windmills takes roughly 25 years to gain back the money that you spent building the windmill, putting it in, and having it operate. And yet the blades need to be changed out at like year 19 or 20. And by the way, those blades, which are made of like a fiberglass composite, can't be recycled. They just have to be sent to some, landfill and covered up. And who knows how long it takes those things to, I'm sure somebody does, but who knows how long it takes those things to actually biodegrade, if they even ever do. And so, we need to explore it. I get it. Go and explore it. But there's drawbacks to every single thing that's out there, especially for these green new energies. I mean, even solar power. Solar power has chemicals within the solar panels that can leach out and drop into the soil, effectively killing it underneath all of these solar panel farms. Not to mention the fact that when you put up these solar panel farms, you're actually taking out trees and grasses and everything else, plant life that converts CO2 back into oxygen, as I recall from my biology classes in school. But anyway, let's take a look here and let's see what this is talking about. So Energy Secretary Chris Wright appeared before a House Appropriations Subcommittee on Wednesday to testify in support of Donald Trump's proposed fiscal year 2026 budget. The hearing was one of several that occurred throughout the week, in which department heads outlined how they plan to implement the administration's policies and justify the federal spending. Wright used the hearing to reinforce the Department of Energy's shift toward reducing regulatory burdens and increasing operational efficiencies. He told the subcommittee, quote, "The Department of Energy will advance these critical missions while cutting red tape, increasing efficiency, unleashing innovation, and ensuring that we are better stewards of taxpayer dollars." While much of the discussion focused on the DOE's future budget and policy direction, several Democrats, of course, decided to press Wright on recent department decisions, including staffing reductions and restructuring of agency programs. One of those, Representative Marcy Koptur from Ohio, she's a Democrat, questioned Wright over allegations that the DOE funds were frozen and that staff was dismissed in connection with the Trump administration's agenda. Wright pushed back on that, saying that the claims were based on misinformation. No funds have been frozen. Wright pointed to a concerning pattern in the final days of the Biden-Harris administration as one example why greater oversight is needed. He stated that while the DOE's Loan Programs Office had issued approximately $40 billion in energy project loans over the past 15 years, it approved over $100 billion in loans during the final 6 days, or 76 days rather, of Biden's term. So he noted that it's extremely concerning because of the fact standard clauses found in prior loan agreements were missing in the rushed approvals made at the end of the previous administration. So that's interesting. So anyway, Trump's proposal, 2026 budget proposal, seeks to eliminate what he calls the Green New Scam. Includes major cuts to renewable energy programs, carbon capture, and electric vehicle subsidies. The plan includes a $2.5 billion in reductions to the DOE's energy efficiency and renewable energy program and defunds the EPA's environmental justice initiatives and grants to non-governmental organizations supporting climate activism. Okay, now I'm just going to point this out. Okay. Climate activism created the perfect environment for the LA wildfires. There is no other way to discuss that. Climate activism has created the perfect environment for all of the Western Forest and Canada Western Forest wildfires that have occurred over the course of the last 20 to 30 to maybe even as far back as 40 years. Climate activism does not take into account that there are times where man does have to provide good stewardship of its, land. I mean, that's what God put us on this earth for. God put us here to steward the earth. And the problem is that the climate activists have taken the idea that man doesn't know what to do so far that it's turned into the fact that, yes, there are some things that man does, like clearing out deadfalls, like making sure that we don't poison the earth with all kinds of things that shouldn't be there, and that kind of stuff. Those are the types of climate activism that really should take place. I mean, again, I just point to the fact that when they had a large oil ship here in the harbor or at the docks here in Seattle, that I personally watched all the climate activists show up in their Subaru SUVs, pull down plastic kayaks and go surround the freaking ship. None of them, not one of them even realizing how stupid that actually looked. I'm protesting big oil in a boat that was created by big oil. And I drove here in a car running off of big oil. People, petroleum products are everywhere. They're in the plastic bottles that we drink water out of. They're in all of our electronics in the form of all of the wonderful electronics boards and things like that. Petroleum makes things like your t-shirts and things like that you use all the time because they are moisture wicking or, have some other feature or whatever. The nylon and in particular nylon and poly, oh man, I'm dying on the word, but anyway, those threads that are used to make long lasting clothing, all of that is a derivative of oil. So sitting here and complaining about oil and yet wearing or using things that are literally produced from oil is an Well, essentially, it's kind of an oxymoron, which is why I tell these people that they are morons. Anyway. Okay. So let me move on. We've got another one here. So there was a study done by a nonpartisan Pacific Research Institute that has found that California's green energy initiatives will cost households a staggering amount to fund the transition to unreliable alternative sources. PRI released its findings in a paper, by the way, this is in Woke Spy, released its findings in a paper titled The Cost of Going Green as America Commemorated Earth Day. In 2018, then Governor Jerry Brown signed Bill 100, which required that all electricity produced by 2045 be from renewable sources. Again, it's that whole put all your eggs into one basket kind of scenario. Governor Newsom has aggressively pushed that and imposed additional requirements, making the cost of transition ultimately prohibitive. According to the analysis, California households, which you wonder why it's cost so much in California, Democrat policies. This is why, just straight up. California households reportedly will bear significant costs, estimated to be between $17,398 and $20,182 per household to fund the state's transition completely to alternative energy sources between 2025 and 2050. And they can't even keep their grid up and running right now. Just imagine what's going to happen, especially because, I mean, think about this. California is one of the places where they push the whole electric car scenario. Well, an electric car, in terms of charging, takes more energy than an AC unit for a, medium-size house. And yet they want every single person, and they can't even keep the grid running with the AC at night, which, by the way, that's when electric cars are charged, because otherwise they're driving around or sitting in parking lots after they've taken their owners, their human owners, to work or to the store or whatever else. They're being used during the day because that's how humans operate. We normally are running around during the day, and we're not charging our cars unless it's at night. Yeah. Anyway, the state apparently intends to spend approximately $246.7 billion, that's billion with a B, to construct green energy infrastructure such as solar panels, wind turbines, electric vehicles, and charging stations. See, there it is, charging stations, electric vehicles, yep, to enable the transition to green energy. It will also use taxpayers' money to decommission the natural gas and nuclear power stations, which, by the way, are cleaner and more reliable. Yeah. Anyway, again, this is just, all this is going to do is weaken our already weakened electrical grid and make it even worse. You're going to make the entire country be more like California or Spain, as far as that goes. All right. Well, another truth that the Democrats don't seem to want to even recognize is the fact that men in women's sports is a bad idea. And mainly this is because of the risk that is there, because of the additional strength, agility, speed, whatever, and the safety of these women is at risk with these men being in these women's sports. Okay? Now, Peyton McNabb, for those of you that don't know, Peyton McNabb is the volleyball player that got spiked in the head, received a massive head injury and a concussion, and it literally ended her volleyball career. That injury ended her volleyball career. But that wasn't a volleyball spike from another woman on the opposite team. It was from a man playing on the team. Okay. And she was at Trump's, we'll call it the State of the Union address. And the Democrats didn't even bother to recognize not only her, but several other people, guests that he had brought. But they didn't even bother to recognize because, again, they're standing there with their fingers in their ears, their eyes shut tight like a 4-year-old who's just sitting there going, la, 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 not wanting to hear the actual truth. Well, here, apparently, in a hearing, okay, and by the way, McNabb has turned into an ambassador for the Independent Women's Forum. The House Doge Subcommittee, which is where she was there to testify, okay, in terms of, and this was part of the House Judiciary Committee, which held a hearing called the Unfair Play Keeping Men Out of Women's Sports. The hearing had 4 witnesses: McNabb, competitive fencer Stephanie Turner. By the way, we talked about her on the program, how she refused to fence a man. Okay. And then we have USA fencing chair Damian, I can't pronounce his last name, but anyway, and Fatima Gross-Graves, who is the CEO of the National Women's Law Center. So these 4 witnesses were there to testify. Well, right before McNabb had to testify, a House Democrat went ahead and moved to adjourn the hearing before she could even talk about getting spiked in the head by a male athlete. Representative Melanie Stansbury suggested that the hearing itself was, and I quote, "I want to make clear that this hearing is actually not about oversight on Doge, but about spreading hate and using trans lives to distract from the real issues that Americans are facing, from attacks on our economy, attacks on our democracy, to attacks on our communities." She is the subcommittee ranking member. She said this during her opening remarks. She immediately moved, or after her opening remarks, she moved to adjourn the hearing, in which subcommittee chair Marjorie Taylor Greene held a voice vote and determined that the nays won. So then Stansbury immediately called for a recorded vote. For those of you that don't understand, in a lot of these subcommittees, if they do a voice vote, they do an aye or a nay, and then you kind of guess as to whether or not who won. And in a recorded vote, they have to go through one by one to get the vote of every single member and then add them up and figure out what's what. Okay. So the recorded vote is also a bit of a delay for it. And so anyway, McNabb went out and said, and told the Daily Signal, which is where this article is coming from, said that I think she tried to end that in the meeting or the hearing completely because she just didn't want to hear it. She didn't want to hear, or she didn't want either of us to share our story. She was talking about the fencing person. Okay. Which was pretty obvious throughout the whole thing. She tried to sweep this under the rug, even while we were laying out the facts that it does exist and it does matter. Now, I can't understand how these Democrats can't see, because there is so many, not only anecdotal, but also scientific evidence that demonstrates that a male who has gone through puberty, or even is in part of puberty. I mean, how many times have we actually talked about this on this program? Things like one of the Williams sisters playing the 200th ranked male in tennis, and he beat her 6 straight sets. Okay, she's the #1 women's player at the time. And then you do things like, the women's national soccer team, the best of the best, all on a team together that goes around and plays other countries. And not only that, has won several World Cups, won several Olympic, games, has won gold medals there. And they played essentially what is a 14-year-old group of boys in Dallas from Dallas FC, the professional Dallas organization. And you can't say that these women are not professionals, because they are. Most of them play within the women's professional leagues here in the U.S. And they got beaten like 7-0 or 8-0, whatever it was. They couldn't even get a score on 14-year-old boys. And you're sitting here and explaining to me, or trying to explain to me, that a woman can actually compete against a man in any kind of physical sport? Now, mentally, like if you want to go up against each other in chess, absolutely. There's nothing that would ever indicate that a woman is not as smart as a man. But there is all kinds of scientific evidence that demonstrates that men are stronger, faster, more agile, for the most part, with the exception of flexibility, than women are in terms of the sports. Now, gymnastics, okay, you can argue, seriously, you can totally argue that women dominate in gymnastics because of the fact that men's bodies, biologically speaking, are not meant to bend in the way, some of the ways that these gymnasts do. Okay? But outside of certain areas, certain sports, certain activities, you're not going to see women who are dominating in these areas. It's men who are dominating in these areas because of the physical advantages, the scientifically proven physical advantages that that the male has over the female of our species. And to sit here and try and block conversations or block people from talking about it and telling the truth is just absolutely ridiculous. And yet they do it every single time. All right, just really quickly, a couple more articles here that I want to cover. This is another thing that Democrats are not recognizing the truth. That even though we are in, potentially in what some people would call tariff wars or things of that nature, okay, Trump's economy is actually in certain areas showing signs of gaining strength. For an example, unemployment claims have fallen more than expected. I told you about the jobs report. We added more jobs than were expected from last month. Well, now the unemployment rate, the applications for unemployment benefits in the U.S. has fallen by 13,000 to 228,000 last week, which is 2,000 more of a drop than what was projected. And this is all according to the U.S. Labor Department for all of this. And this is for the week ending May the 1st. So, for them sitting here saying that, oh no, the economy is all absolutely horrible. I've also seen people on socials talking about how egg prices have fallen, gas prices have fallen, inflation by itself has fallen slightly. And so the Democrats are sitting there with their fingers in their ears, their eyes closed, they're sitting there la, 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 because they don't want to hear the fact that, yes, we are actually doing better. It's not as pronounced of an improvement as what many of us would have hoped. However, things are improving, and it's mainly just a matter of time before some of this really takes into effect. All right, last thing, and this one I'm actually pretty happy about, and I think should happen. When you take out a loan, when you make a promise to somebody else to pay them back, you should be responsible for that loan. The Biden administration tried to shift the responsibility from the loan borrower to the taxpayer. Well, according to this article in the Epoch Times, and thanks to the Trump administration, that's now changed. So they're starting to crack down on student loan defaulters, and they're going after them because they're basically saying, hey, if you don't pay this back, we're going to seize your benefits. We're going to do wage garnishment. federal collections have resumed after the Biden pandemic era freeze. So beginning in June, the government is going to start to intercept defaulters' tax refunds and any other kind of payments in order to try and catch them up on their loans. Hey, you know what? You took out a loan, you pay it back. That's just the way it is. So many people, including myself, who took out federal student aid loans back in the days. Okay, mine wasn't that long ago. It was in the 2000s, the early 2000s. But we paid it back. We've paid back all of our loans. I've paid loans back for cars. I've paid personal loans back. I've paid credit card loans back. This is just the nature of being an adult. When you take out a loan and you write that promissory note, you are responsible for that loan. You cannot sit here. Now, you took a bad loan if you ended up getting a degree in basket weaving from some podunk college online and they charged you $50,000 or $100,000 for it. Well, that was your mistake. You can't go and it's not right, I should say, for you to go and just say, hey, I need the government to just write those off, because they don't actually get written off. What ends up happening is the burden of the payment shifts from you as the loan borrower over to the taxpayer, which is where the money came from that the government loaned to you in the anticipation that you were going to pay it back over time. So this, I'm fully on board with this one. It's a responsibility that these people took out that they need to essentially be responsible for. All right. Well, I thank you for hanging in during all of the technical glitches that went on, one of them being, of course, my own making. And even though Rumble seems to have problems right now, I guarantee you they are a fantastic streaming platform. This only happens every so often. And so, you really ought to give them a chance. Head on over to rumble.com, get an account, sign up. It is free. Once you are signed up and signed in, make sure that you search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time I go live. Also, too, hit those thumbs up or even the thumbs down on all of my platforms, whether it's X, YouTube, Facebook, and, of course, the aforementioned Rumble. Tomorrow night is Saturday, so we are 1 hour later here on the program. That means 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening and a good start to your weekend. We'll see you tomorrow night. Good night, everybody.